First and foremost, I want to thank you all for joining us at our weekly Lunch and Learn. I am Ed DeVoe, the president of the New Jersey Cannabis Association, the state's first and largest trade association for the development of the cannabis industry in New Jersey. So we want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank you. This is a really special day. As many of you have joined us in the past, you know that we typically have our corporate sponsors as our guests on the Lunch and Learn program, and we are absolutely grateful for their levels of support. We thank you all for your support, because without you, we couldn't do this. And then every now and then, we do have an opportunity to have very special guests on. And today is absolutely no different. In fact, this is the pinnacle of some of those special guests. We are getting ready to have our first in-person event next week, next Wednesday at Galloping Hill Golf Course from 6 to 9. Check us out. Check out the website, www.NJCBA.com, and check us out for our future events, not just our in-person event next Wednesday, November 3rd, but also we're co-hosting the Stockton University Career Fair and Expo down in Atlantic City. So our friends at Stockton, our friends at New Jersey Cannabis Insider, and New Jersey CannaBusiness are putting together Career Fair and Expo. So check out the website, check out those dates. Without any further ado, many of us have been blessed to have been not only part of the state's Department of Health presentations and leadership with respect to the cannabis industry in New Jersey, but now we have the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, and we continue to be blessed to have Jeff Brown as an integral part of helping shape and helping create the cannabis industry in the state of New Jersey. So Jeff, I want to thank you so much for taking time out to join us at our weekly Lunch and Learn.
Thanks, Ed. It's my pleasure, and thanks to everyone who's a part of the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association. You know, we're doing this, you know, for a lot of reasons. You know, I think for patients first and foremost, but you know, working with the industry and seeing this industry develop in New Jersey and seeing New Jersey be a leader nationwide and potentially internationally someday in the cannabis industry is something that I would love to see happen. Certainly the commissioners here would love to see happen.
So Jeff, look, let's kick it off. I'll turn it over to you to start. Give us all some idea, if you can give us the synopsis, right, of the days of creation and then leading up to the issuance of regulations, and then kind of give us a glimpse as to where you think we're going. And I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ed. So I can say this, you know, with certainty. There are states now that certainly did a transition quicker than we did, only a few of them. But there are no states that have come out with as regs as comprehensive as we did and in as quick a time as we did, and who have gone through and done the amount of stakeholdering as we accomplished in the early months here of the existence of the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. You know, from day one, we put a priority on listening to stakeholders. If you all remember, if you've been attending our meetings since April, you know, initially we were doing meetings every 2 weeks, which now I realize is not advisable, but it was great. It was important. And, you know, we heard a lot from stakeholders, and that we were able to take the things that we heard and put them into our regulations. And we are all extremely proud of our regulations. I think that they set a new standard for what, you know, a regulatory agency would like to see in the cannabis industry. A few things I want to highlight. Number one, we're putting social equity first. So, you know, when it comes to application priority, social equity businesses, which are businesses owned by individuals who either have past marijuana convictions or past cannabis convictions, or live in economically disadvantaged areas and have for quite some time, and also are below a certain threshold of income, they're going to get top priority when it comes to application review, scoring, and approval. And Secondly, same thing with diversely owned businesses. Those are businesses that qualify as minority owned, woman owned, or disabled veteran owned. Businesses in impact zones will also get priority, and as well as other kinds of businesses. I'm really excited about the opportunities that the micro business licenses create. I think we certainly have some ideas, and I'm sure you all do, on how to change that designation to make it a little more workable. I think that creates a really exciting pathway into the industry for new entrepreneurs. And we fought hard, certainly myself and our chair, Diana, to make sure that the legislation, which is now law, specifically gives a pathway for micro businesses to convert to full standard businesses. I'm also really excited about the opportunity that the conditional licenses give us. They give an opportunity for people to get in and get an initial review and thumbs up from the commission before having to put out capital on purchasing a site and before having to go through the full municipal process. I'm really hopeful that our municipal partners throughout the state will see that for what it is and understand that people who have conditional licenses, businesses that have conditional licenses, have been deemed to be a qualified business by the CRC, and they should be looked at seriously at the municipal levels, because this is going to be a two-step process. We're going to do what we do at the state level, and then businesses are going to have to work with the municipalities on the other end. But I think conditional licenses and the issuance of conditional licenses should give clarity to municipalities that we've given an initial look to some of these licenses. I'm also really excited that our new regs dramatically change the way that we license businesses, period. So we just did awards for the 2019 cultivation and vertically integrated. We're going to be doing them for dispensaries. And then we're going to be but in the future, that's going to change. That's going to change significantly. And I saw in the chat that somebody was saying the CRC missed an opportunity with having costumes. And I'd like to say, everyone to say hello to Madam Chair, Diana Wainu, who has come in, is our resident CRC unicorn today. So thank you, Madam Chair. So we like to have fun at the CRC too, as you can see. We work hard. We're all working around the clock, but it's important to have some fun. So when we talk about where we're going with licensing, it's going to be a rolling application process. Applications are going to be reviewed against themselves and their compliance with the regulations. And so we're not going to have this situation where there's a specific deadline, everybody has to get it in by that specific deadline, and everybody has to wait till all the applications are reviewed. We set up a priority system. You come in, you meet the requirements of the application, and we move you through the process. And this is because, importantly, we want the market to determine success, not the CRC. We want to move to a market-based system here where we're not, artificially limiting the number of licenses. We're not artificially limiting opportunities in the industry. We want to make sure that if an entrepreneur, has an idea, has a business plan, has, gotten the capital they need, that we're not a barrier to them getting into the market and achieving success. And I think that's going to enable us to really have New Jersey stand out as a market on the East Coast, and also have, really stand out as a market in the entire country.
Jeff, thank you so much for that overview. And I know that we are appreciative. That was one of the areas that we had been so concerned about, right? We want the market to exist. And so you're moving that direction. We're absolutely thrilled that you're going in that direction. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I know everyone is waiting for this question. Any sense of when the portal is going to open, right? Any sense at all?
Yeah, so we're pushing to get that going as quickly as possible. The commission voted to approve the project at our September meeting, I believe. And we've been moving full steam ahead. I can tell you there's a lot of work that happened, in advance of that to get ready. The vendor that we're working with is tremendous. I'll just note for those of you who, have been following things happening around the country, they handled applications in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma it's medical, but it was an extremely high volume application process. The number of licenses in Oklahoma is remarkable. But I'm not saying that we're going to recreate Oklahoma, but nonetheless, I think the fact that this system was able to handle the number of applications that they got and enable the regulators in Oklahoma to move through them as quickly as they did is a really important point to emphasize to everybody on this call, because we recognize that that we need to, when we receive applications, we need to process them, review them, and get them moving as quickly as possible. And it's going to be an all hands on deck approach here. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm jumping in reviewing applications in those early days while we wait to get staff on board. But it's the nature of where we are. There's going to be a lot of interest in and a lot of applications submitted, I'm sure, and we're going to want to make sure that we're processing them as quickly as we possibly can. I don't have a specific date. I would just say, keep checking the Commission's website. Our next meeting is on November 9th, so the agenda for that meeting should be released, probably about a week in advance of the meeting. So, keep checking our website. There'll be more info there.
That's great, Jeff. Thank you. That's great news, and I know people were eager to hear that. And I'm going to digress for a minute because I have had several conversations with other states, especially around social equity. And I can tell you, a big kudos to you and to the CRC. In fact, I was just out at NJBiz in Nevada, and I actually spoke with people from Nevada who were actually thrilled with what we had done, and they were peppering me with questions on how we got to where we did. Illinois, we saw, was wrought with problems as they tried to develop different types of systems. So again, just kudos to you and to your team as people did look to us for guidance these days with respect to social equity and the micro licensing category, which seems like nobody else had it, and we are leading the way with that. So thank you, and thank you for prioritizing the micros and the social equities and the conditional licenses. One of the other areas that folks have asked me about, and I'm sure you get this quite a bit, with respect to ingestibles and edibles. Right, I get the question. I've been asked by media, hey, what do you think about it? And hopefully I'm not too far off, but I did voice what I thought was the concern around the fact of clinical versus culinary, and how clinical, at least at this stage of the game, might make people feel better about the ingestible and edible marketplace. But I know some people were concerned because they were ramping up to be doing the culinary aspect. So if you want to give us some insights on how that was developed and where we might be going, at least after the first year of operation.
Absolutely, and I love the way that you frame that, because I think that's a pretty accurate framing to how we're looking at it. And our initial rules cover a wide range of manufactured products, give the Commission the ability to approve more, and edibles, as we think about them, a lot of them, they can be things like gummies, or let's say more shelf stable items that might be able to be have a 6-month expiration date, or even potentially more in some cases. When we talk about items that are produced in more of a commercial kitchen environment that are more perishable, there's a lot other kind of concerns and issues that come up, and we just didn't have enough time to really delve in to all of that before our August deadline, and it was critical for us to meet that deadline, because we want to launch this market as quickly as we possibly can, and that's not to say that we're not going to go there. It's something that we're actively looking at now, and there are other regulatory authorities in the state of New Jersey that get implicated when you talk about kitchens, and so we have to do some stakeholdering with the Department of Health, with the food safety folks there. A lot of food safety efforts are run through local municipalities and local health departments, and so it's just it's a process that we're working through. None of us here are against, edibles or, having things more, more perishable items in the future. But, we just need to make sure that we're on firm footing and we understand the full landscape and all the considerations that go into those. Because we want to, equity is one of our core values, and so is safety. And we want to make sure that anything we're putting forth, we've done so in a way that can ultimately be ensured that it's safe to the end consumer.
That's great to hear, Jeff. Thank you for sharing that. I'll pick one of the other areas that folks have talked about, and that's in the lab space. We've, as an association, and I absolutely want to give a shout out to all the labs that have joined the New Jersey Cannabis Association. Thank you for your support. I have, in fact, been speaking with some of you about forming a lab committee to talk about how we work better together. So Jeff, if you don't mind sharing maybe some thoughts on the lab folks that are here and listening and hopeful to be part of the New Jersey landscape.
Absolutely. So the first step is we have before us some agreements between AT's current alternative treatment centers and some third-party labs to get going under our interim testing standards. We expect to move on what we have before us very soon. I'd say within the next couple weeks, so that we can get that going under the interim testing standards that the commission adopted in the summer. The other thing I'll note, our regs for personal use cannabis, for recreational cannabis, do set up third-party testing, and that's what the testing infrastructure is going to be. And so, I can't get into a lot of specifics, but know that when we start accepting applications, we're going to want to make sure that there's opportunity for testing labs to get into the market as quickly as possible, so that when we get businesses that are operational and are producing products that are ready to get to market, that there's the appropriate number of labs available to test those products and ensure that they're safe. Ed, I'll say to you, since you're setting up, or thinking about setting up a lab committee, I think as we move forward here, it's going to be critical to work with the labs specifically, and to work with stakeholders on this. I think we'll try to set up some more formalized ways to work with the CRC and to submit feedback, particularly with labs. We certainly see things in other states that can be concerning in the lab space, and we don't want to see results shopping. We want to make sure that when a consumer gets this, access to a certificate of analysis, that they can have confidence in that certificate of analysis. And we as regulators want to have confidence in that as well. And unfortunately, there's been some things happening around the country that have, kind of, chipped away at the confidence in third-party labs among the regulatory community. I'm hopeful though that, given New Jersey's strong background in pharmaceuticals, given our strong background in science, sciences and business, that we can set a new standard for having third-party labs be a really effective, safety check on the industry here. So, I expect more on that soon, but I'm really, really excited to move to third-party lab testing. Certainly the volume demand that we're going to see demands it, and it's going to be critical for us all to work together to make sure that works.
That's great, and thank you so much. I accept the invitation. So we'll absolutely be working with you, and it's not like we haven't. And I'll digress here for a moment. To once again thank you, not just for your leadership, but for being someone that has worked with the CannaBusiness Association and has in the past. Look, you had a great relationship with my predecessor, Scott Rutter, and when I came into the role, you absolutely showed that we could work together, and I appreciate that so much.
Absolutely, and it's vice versa. We want to make sure that we're hearing from organizations like CannaBusiness Association. I think you have a very diverse membership, and it's clear here you have labs, you have potential cannabis businesses, you have great representation, and so we want to continue working with you. And, you know, as that, I've been seeing things pop up in the chat, and I want to note a couple things that, like, I think is, you know, we'd particularly like to hear from all of you on. So first, there was some mention of like franchises, and I think, you know, sort of things related to that. And in our regs, we set up regulations on management services contractors and financial sources. And these are, you know, entities that are either providing lending to a cannabis business or, you know, potentially providing management services, intellectual property. And one of the things we're thinking about there is, like, you know, we want to, if businesses do want to use a management services contractor or do want to, you know, go to a lender for support, or, you know, maybe a combination of support and intellectual property, you know, we want to allow that. We don't want to inhibit that, but we also want to set up the appropriate checks and balances so that whether it's a management services agreement or a financial source agreement, they're not being structured in a way that's used to exploit, you know, cannabis businesses or, you know, new entrepreneurs. And certainly we've seen exploitative practices, particularly related to management services agreements around the country. We've seen them, you know, potentially used in some cases to skirt license caps and things like that. But, you know, I think I saw a number of comments. So if there are thoughts on those Msa Fsa provisions, yeah, we're all ears. You know, that's something that we want to hear about. Again, we want to make sure there's opportunity, but also that there are appropriate checks and balances. And the governor just signed a new law in medical that allows for actual, you know, financial sources or funds to get up to like 35% equity in multiple dispensaries, and directed us to do at the CRC to do regulations around that to ensure that there are the appropriate checks and balances there, so that it's not used in an exploitative manner and it doesn't result in, you know, overly an overly concentrated market. We probably have an overly concentrated market right now, which we're trying to get away from. So, you know, if you have thoughts on that, please do let us know. And then, you know, labs is another thing, but also, you know, I'm seeing a lot of comments pop up here, you know, specific to edibles. Again, that's something that we're looking at. So, you know, as you have ideas, whether it's on you know, ingestibles, or, you know, maybe even somebody was talking to me yesterday about cannabis beverages. Like, if there's experience out there, if there are thoughts, then, you know, we're all ears. I'm not saying we're going to agree with everyone. That's you know, that's certainly not our role, but we want to make sure we have, you know, we're listening to our key stakeholders, and this is certainly a constituency that I would consider a vital stakeholder for the work that we're doing.
Excellent. Jeff, thank you so much. Look, you know, sometimes I have a chance to speak with my guests in depth before they come on. But what you've just done, I want everyone to recognize that, if we can call it this, you went off script, that you started to address things in the chat feature. So thank you for doing that. You didn't have to, but you did. And I want everyone to know that you did a wonderful thing for all of us by doing that. So thank you. Absolutely, my pleasure. And I'll just add one more, just because it just came up. We are going to release the list of economically disadvantaged areas and impact zones. That's coming. Rest assured that you'll have those lists available before applications are accepted. So everybody's going to be clear on what qualifies and what doesn't on those. Great. So, you know, we'll start to wrap up because your time is so precious and we really appreciate it. Look, municipalities have a lot of authority under this new management model, under the new regulatory model. So what is it that we can do to help municipalities as they're probably trying to think, look, those that have opted in, they've reached out to us and we're helping them. Those that have opted out but are looking to opt in, they've reached out to us. So just some thoughts on maybe on the municipal side of things that we could do either together or maybe give us some guidance so that we can help them help the industry. Absolutely. So I mean, I'm hopeful that, you know, we get
significantly more municipalities opting in as they see this industry develop. I'll start, like, my advice to the industry on some of this stuff is the best thing you can do is be responsible actors in the space, and really model by example, so that when municipalities are looking to how this industry functions, they have good examples to look at. Like, that's number one. Number two, when it comes to municipalities, what we've been stressing is that municipalities should really try to focus on things that are in their wheelhouse, that they're good at, right? And they shouldn't be trying to recreate the process that we have, because we don't expect municipalities to have inventory tracking systems, or I think a lot, or have security requirements that go above and beyond what we have. I mean, maybe certainly they can have stuff that related to hours of operation and some common sense stuff, but we're already putting a lot on businesses, and it's a highly regulated industry. It's the nature of where we are, and so they just need to be cognizant of that and focus on the things that they really do care about and are in their wheelhouse. Hours of operation, signage, potential ways that the cannabis business would interface with the local police department, their efforts and communication related to if like underage individuals are caught in the store or something like that. Like these waste disposal, these are things that and certainly all the zoning requirements, right? Like the municipalities should certainly be thinking through zoning requirements. Obviously, if they're opting in, they can still do that. If they've been auto opted in, a lot of that is kind of done for them at this point. But they can, even the ones that auto opted in, they can still pass ordinances based on hours of operation and some of those other things that are in their wheelhouse. I'll note, like, we've set our fees low for a specific reason. We want to make sure that they're not a barrier to entry, we hope that municipalities take that as a good lead to follow. Certainly there are some examples that haven't, I'm just hopeful that we're all aligned in trying to create a competitive but safe industry that ultimately serves consumers. That I think that will help us all.
Jeff, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to be with us today. Again, in fact, here's what I'll offer, and some people have heard me say this in the past. Being a former officer in the Army, I've developed this motto: when you're not in leadership, you're right 100% of the time. and so, look, you've got a tremendous task behind you. You've accomplished a great deal. We've still got a lot in front of us. So, look, we're going to keep working together and making this a better industry. We're going to build this thing out so that patients and adults who so choose to use the plant benefit from it. And your leadership is greatly appreciated.
Well, thanks, Ed, and likewise, right back at you. I think when it comes to stakeholder groups, we're not always going to agree. We're not always going to be on the same page. But I think it's really helpful for being in this seat when you have organizations and leaders in the private sector that are that really want to collaborate and have open lines of communications and are understand that we have interests here, and when you can come to us and offer solutions that align with those interests, it's often a win-win scenario for all involved. So thank you for the work that you've done with the Cannabis Business Association. I see it continue to grow under your leadership. So keep up the great work, and we'll continue talking and working together here.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. Jeff Brown, Executive Director of the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Thank you for being a guest on our weekly Lunch and Learn. I want to thank everyone who came and joined with us today. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your comments. And Jeff, thank you again for breaking script and going off script and addressing some of those issues. What we really want to do is move forward together. So with that in mind, I'm not going to go through the sponsors. We have a beautiful slide that was set up. We'll put that up there shortly. But before we sign off, Again, not only thank you to our guests, thank you to our sponsors, thank you to Tavern on George. If you haven't become a member, check out our membership options. We would love to have you as a member, have to love you involved, making your voice heard.